Welcome to another week of Candid Conversations. I'm Renee Marzoff here with Tuni Kabir and special guest Jason Cassidy, our in-house team realtor. Today we'll be going over more realtor-specific questions. So Tuni, take it away.
Yes. Hi, Jason. Uh,
Tuni.
can you walk us through a little bit about the services and benefits of the CRPM Advantage?
Yeah. Hi, Renee. Hi, Tuni. Nice to see you both. Back in 2017, when I started working at CRPM, Colorado Realty and Property Management, we created the CRPM Advantage, which was a way to help our investors make the transition from rental property into a property listed for sale. And as you can imagine, there's lots of different scenarios and different goals that every investor has when it comes to what's best for them when they sell their properties. And sometimes it's for tax advantages, sometimes it's for retirement planning, sometimes they're trying to put someone through college. It could be a last resort where they're actually trying to make some fast changes in their lives because something's come up. But in either case, what we try to do is give them the most options possible. And the way that I've found that best is by providing a lot of information about not just the market conditions, but the condition of their property, a couple of different flexible options that perhaps relate to their lease and the residents that exist in the property today, and then cater that towards their specific needs and goals for the sale, whether it's maximizing the highest amount of profit possible, speeding up the time cycle in the sale, or in some cases, even selling the property with a resident in place because it's time to make a quick change. So in any of those situations, we do the same thing to start off with. We typically do a pre-sale walkthrough of the property and get eyes on the condition of not just the property, but would it show well if we were to ask for showings to begin early in the process. So by taking some photographs and sharing those with the owners, we get kind of a current state of the property, and that's where the conversation begins. In addition to that, I'll do a certified market analysis called the CMA. Comparable market analysis is another version of that. And that usually is adjusting recently sold properties that are similar, either in the same neighborhood or properties that are similar in square footage, similar in age, those types of things. We will adjust those to the condition and to the features of the existing, the subject home, and then go from there. So after a pre-sale walkthrough, after a CMA, another tool that's really useful is doing an estimated net proceeds calculation. And this can help owners work with their tax advisors and see the actual estimated profit after paying things like prorated taxes, real estate commissions, closing costs, title insurance, HOA status letter, and record change fees, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of a nice itemized list of things that will impact the profit at the end before taxes. Usually we talk about the market conditions as well, and there's a variety of different data points that I like to share with owners, whether it's in their zip code of their properties or things that are happening with the market generally. We talk about how interest rates are impacting things, also things that are newer headline type news that are local to the Denver market. We wrap all that up, and then from that point, it usually gives owners enough information to decide how they want to proceed. Some people realize that maybe it's not time to sell yet, and it's makes a lot of sense for them to go back and consider renewing a lease, or sometimes people are ready to make some pre-sale improvements to the property to maximize the profit or to speed up the sale, create more interest and have more people that are interested in purchasing a property that's move-in ready. Make ready improvement sales and project management are things that we also offer in addition to the CRPM Advantage.
That was a great breakdown of all of the services and benefits of the CRPM Advantage. Thank you, Jason. Another question for you. What costs do realtors need to cover when listing properties for sellers?
Yeah, the conversation about real estate commissions is front headline news right now, since the National Association of Realtors just settled a pretty big lawsuit that's affecting all realtors across the country. And I know that before I was a realtor, I hadn't really given a lot of thought to what all goes into listing a property or what exactly it is that realtors do to earn those commissions. But, in light of this recent settlement, a lot of people are asking that question. And I think there is a bit of a misunderstanding when it comes down to just exactly how much of that is profit after you pay commissions to a real estate agent. So on the listing side, in my experience, yeah, typically, there's about 12 different fees that are incorporated into into working as a realtor full time, it begins with licensing fees through the Division of Real Estate. Errors and omissions insurance is a way for me to protect my clients against any wrongdoing. If I was to make a mistake that impacted their sale or impacted, their financial situation, I'm fully insured to protect them and to protect myself. The National Association of Realtors and the Denver Metro Association of Realtors require board dues. That allows me access to not only legal support. If you're in a legal situation, before you pay an attorney, I could possibly reach out to someone who has experience, in those types of matters that involve an attorney. So I could try to provide some additional, help and support, expertise, all those types of things. The MLS, which is what most people are looking at properties for sale in, requires that we as realtors pay dues. You have to be a licensed realtor to have MLS subscriptions, and we pay fees for those. In addition to the MLS fees, we pay showing service fees, which really, really nicely incorporate with one another. So if I'm working for a buyer and I see a property in the MLS that just came up for sale, I'd love to schedule that showing right away for them and get them first into the property. And there's a linking service through showing services that allows me to do that if I hook up with the MLS directly. So I pay for those fees additionally. Continuing education costs are part of my obligations to stay a licensed realtor in Colorado. And throughout the year, I need to take coursework, and I pay for that as well. Commission splits with the real estate brokerage firm where I hang my license is a big portion of real estate commissions, and the brokerage firm that accepts the liability for my workings as a realtor receives some of that. Transaction coordinator fees is one that varies by real estate agent, but I hire and work with a licensed real estate agent working as a transaction coordinator, and they're a second set of eyes on every transaction that we do together. They provide calendar updates, they make sure that deadlines are met, and it's just great having someone participating in that transaction that can help. In addition, CMAs, that comparative market analysis that I mentioned is a tool that I use, and I subscribe to a service that makes that, I guess, easy to read, easy to digest, and it comes as a subscription as well. In addition to transaction coordinator fees, certified market analysis, analytics, and research tools are very resourceful, great ways to get custom focused data for each individual property that I research, and that's a subscription fee as well. Photography and marketing related fees are of the highest importance. These days, the first impression that people get isn't when they pull up to the curb. The first impression really is online. So I pay for great professional photographers who use HDR photos, wide angle lenses, aerial photography, floor plans, walkthrough videos. All those things are at my disposal for each of my listings. In addition, state-approved contracts, e-signature subscription services are part of every realtor's toolkit, and vehicle and travel costs. Every time I'm going across the city, I do have to fill the tank and keep the vehicle running great. That kind of summarizes some of the fees that in addition to equipment costs that I pay for every transaction.
So segueing off of that, can you tell us a little bit more about the value realtors, specifically yourself, have for homeowners and investors who are considering listing their properties for sale?
Yeah, on the listing side, every time that someone hires a listing agent, each party hopes that it goes super smoothly and that it's the easiest transaction ever. Because when you're done with this, all you really will remember in the future is how stressful it was, how easy did your realtor help make the process, and did you get the end result that you wanted to? And that's always my goal, is to make it as easy and stress-free as possible for every one of my clients. And in many cases, it does go that way. And in some cases, it just doesn't. Sometimes you're working with difficult situations, whether it's dealing with COVID, like back in 2020, or it's a mortgage lender maybe doesn't understand state underwriting guidelines, and their loan team may be out of state, and there's some confusion about the timelines that have been set in the contract. There's been times in the 15 years I've been a realtor where it's taken 4 contracts before we actually get to a closing table, and it's no one's fault necessarily on the listing side, but things do happen, and sometimes they involve potential legal disputes. They involve complications related to the contract language. Having someone who's been there hundreds of times for many, many years, that you can trust and that you feel comfortable working through a scenario like that is, to me, one of the best and most valuable things that I can provide to my clients. And it's not just the time that I put into each transaction or the hundreds of phone calls or emails, things that are happening on the nights and the weekends and the holidays, but it's the relationship that you have with people and making sure that you feel like you're getting the best service possible. And that can come at all hours and all times. And a great realtor is going to be there for you during those times, regardless of whether it's after 5 o'clock or on a Sunday afternoon. In addition to that, it's about time from experience perspective. You could probably, of the thousands of real estate agents that are out there, there are probably many that are, gaining experience with each transaction. The more experienced agents, have been through these more complicated scenarios. We may know more about ways to get the absolute best for our clients because we've seen these types of contracts, different aspects of things in contract language, different ways to approach either purchasing a property or listing a property when it comes to negotiations, working with all other parties involved, everything from the vendors during inspection periods or negotiating through inspections or understanding how your title insurance agent is going to benefit you in a transaction. All these types of things combined are really based on experience and time. And those are all things that a good realtor should bring to the table.
Awesome. Well, switching gears to talk a little bit more about the recent NAR settlement, obviously, which has been in the headlines. I'd love to know a little bit more from your perspective what listing agents are thinking about this with respect to listings and commissions and what that means for them and you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's a really hot topic right now, and both buyers and people listing their homes for sale are wondering what the impacts of this will be for them. And just in short, I'd like to say that commissions were always negotiable in real estate in Colorado. Both the listing contract and a buyer's agency agreement have blank spaces where parties were able to negotiate the fees that realtors charge for their services. And there's no set rules or set amounts of money that the state of Colorado or myself as a realtor ever committed to, on a standardized basis. And that'll continue to be the case going forward. When it comes to listings, one of the big decisions that sellers will need to make is whether or not they want to pay any portion of a buyer's agent's commission. And that was part of the big reason for the settlement, was that people thought that that was a standard and fixed thing. And in fact, it's not. There's ways to go about it where the seller of a property doesn't have to pay any of the buyer's agent's commission. And if they choose to do it that way, a good real estate agent that's representing their buyers will still show that property because they want what's best for their client. They want buyers to see as many homes as possible. But what it can do is create challenges for the buyer, because now a buyer not only has to come up with their down payment and their closing costs at higher interest rates that we've seen recently. In addition to that, they may be responsible for another line item, which is a real estate commission paid to their agent. So for sellers that are interested in helping the cause, they can still contribute some of those commissions to a buyer's agent. It'll be on a case-by-case basis, and we're just going to have to see how it goes.
Mhm. Absolutely. How does the NAR settlement then change some of those conditions for the buyers? Are you thinking we're going to see a shift in demand from buyers due to this change?
Um, I don't know. It's a great question. I think that buyers are going to have that conversation first and foremost with their agents, and their buyer's agency agreement should outline what happens if the agent isn't receiving the commission that they've agreed to. Who's going to make up the difference? That way it can be addressed if they are writing an offer to purchase a home and not after the fact. I think that those conversations will be more transparent than they ever have. And I think there are great ways to negotiate a fair transaction for both sides, the realtor and for the buyer. Another example of that could be if a buyer finds a property online and it doesn't require, a real estate agent taking time at nights and weekends and on short notice to go show that property, they've already identified the property they want to write an offer on. Maybe they want to go see it 1 or 2 times before making that offer. That cuts out a significant amount of work, and perhaps buyer and buyer's agent should renegotiate in those scenarios what the commission paid would be. In the state of Colorado, you're able to negotiate on an hourly rate. You're able to really write the terms and conditions that work and make the most sense based on the way that the buyers want to operate and the commitment that the agent is making to their clients.
Sure, definitely. So for the sellers that you are working with in the future, for those who maybe don't want to pay the buyer's commission fee, what will your conversation with them look like about that?
Yeah, great question. And I wonder if it's really going to have a huge impact immediately, or if we're going to start to see this kind of trickle into the market. I think that as time goes on, that we'll see more adjusted and varied commissions in each listing. And to me, um, if I was giving advice to a client who's getting ready to list a property, I wouldn't cut out a buyer's agent commission um, entirely when it comes to them paying a portion of it. I would still be willing to pay a portion of it to ensure that buyers financially have every opportunity to purchase that property without thinking about thousands of dollars in addition to that in the form of paying commissions. A great way to find out, a little bit more on the other side of that, if you're a buyer going into the market, is to talk to your mortgage lender. Is that an amount of money that you want to finance over time? Is that something that's going to impact your your debt to income ratios? I would speak with the mortgage lender. I think it's just as important as speaking with your realtor about how those fees are going to work.
Absolutely. Well, so my question is, Jason, you've seen a lot of properties over the years. What are the most typical maintenance items that a home needs before it's ready to be listed for sale? And do you help homeowners with getting those items taken care of?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that question. In addition to my work as a realtor, I've spent years working as a project manager for clients that want to make pre-sale improvements. The biggest reason people will do this, number one, is to make additional profit. The second is to speed up the cycle of the sale, because most people in these market conditions are looking for a move-in ready home. They love the idea of being able to pay their closing costs, pay their down payment, start making mortgage payments, and move in the day that they close. And the properties that don't offer that typically sit on the market a little bit longer. There's typically a little bit more negotiation, depending on the price range of those properties. And so we started this program with the CRPM Advantage, but I do this for clients on a regular basis, regardless of whether they're working with investment properties or just with residential homes, is choosing the right improvements to make can really impact the sale in a positive way. And the ones that I make most frequently are the ones that you probably heard of before, like putting fresh paint on the walls, getting rid of that old carpet and putting in some fresh carpet so somebody can envision that as their space, getting rid of some of the personal items in the property to make the home not only look bigger, but also give them a sense of what that home would be like as their home, instead of seeing personal property in there that maybe represents the current owner. That way they can visualize that space as theirs. Taking it a step further, I'm always happy to have conversations, and I've worked with great contractors over the years to do things like improvements in the kitchens and the bathrooms, because those two function so importantly for every one of us. Those are high touch, high use items, daily use items, and it's a real pain if your bathroom or your kitchen needs a remodel and you're trying to live through those conditions. So anything from replacing cabinets to putting on new countertops, updating that sink and faucet that you use every single day aren't out of the question. They really are realistic projects that can be done quickly if you're working with a professional. Someone that's timing all of this, really should look at a 30 to a 45-day cycle when it comes to making improvements in the property. That's the longest cycle that I typically would make, versus just selling the property as is. Within 45 days, usually we can make improvements to kitchens, bathrooms, do all of the interior or exterior painting that's needed, putting in things like, vinyl flooring, carpeting, And then, changing out light fixtures, staging the property is another one. These are all tools that we have at our disposal, and depending on the home, depending on the price range, the owner's goals, most importantly, all of these things are in play when we try to make these decisions about what helps that owner meet their goal when they sell their home.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sure.
Question for you, Jason. What is the most difficult transaction that you've come across?
That's a great question. One of the most difficult transactions that I see frequently come up is a property that's priced above the median price range. So meaning, in Denver right now, the median price range on a home exceeds $600,000. So if someone's trying to sell a home above 600K, not as many buyers are going to be able to afford that above the median range. And those that are really do value having a turnkey property. So a real challenge is when the property is a high value property, lots of square footage to update, and the property hasn't been updated. Then someone's looking at it like, wow, it's a big project. I won't be able to move in right away. I'm going to have big costs, and I don't know who to hire. I don't know who it's going to be that's going to help me through this project. That can be a real burden for someone trying to sell a home. One of the challenges that I also see is when landlords are ready to sell their rental properties subject to a lease, because typically the person that's interested in buying a property with a lease attached to it is an investor. And because of interest rates and the cost of homes rising so fast in recent years in the Denver market, it's harder and harder for investors to cash flow if they don't have the right amount of down payment available. So one of the challenges is selling properties subject to leases. Most of the time I recommend waiting until the end of that lease, attracting the highest percentage of potential buyers, which are typically the buyers that are looking to purchase a home.
That's all for this week. Thank you for joining us on another rendition of Candid Conversations from Colorado Realty and Property Management. We'll see you next time.